Welcome back to the Present F1 podcast. Andrew and we are here. We are coming at you one day before the first race of the season, the Bahrain GP. Qualifying just finished. Q1, Q2, Q3. So many storylines. Don't know where to begin. How you doing today?
That was banana. Dude, I didn't expect any of that.
No, man.
I mean, I expected the top four, maybe just, having your Ferrari, Red Bull, Mercedes, like that order. But to see Haas, Alfa Romeo, and Zhu Guan Yu, even in Q2, Zhou Guan Yu, yeah. I was in shock.
Yeah. Well,
look at that order.
We knew coming after all the testing and all the practices the last couple of days that some teams were kind of maybe not sandbagging, but they were holding back a little bit on their power performance. They were holding back a little bit on showing us what their car is fully capable of.
Yeah, keeping their cards close to their chest.
And then Q1, just like you said, Haas coming out flying, Alfa Romeo coming out flying. And we'll get to it a little bit more. We'll break it down, but McLaren not really doing their best.
No.
Ricciardo, not even getting out of Q1. And I think the other big story was the Aston Martin not getting out of Q1 as well. Both drivers. Both
those drivers, yeah. It was definitely a tough day for McLaren. Ricciardo going P18. What the hell? I got to take this hat off. It's BS. Took so long to get here.
Wrong day to wear that hat.
Yeah.
Maybe just spin it around. Don't show the logo.
Gotta dust this off.
Yeah.
Dust it off. But yeah, that was a horrible outing by Daniel Ricciardo. I know he missed the preseason tests last week, and he's just getting into the car this week after, a 3-week hiatus of him driving?
Yeah, pretty much.
So, obviously tough on him. Even Aston Martin, Nico Hülkenberg, just stepping up to the plate 3 days before the race, like, oh, yeah, hey, buddy, you're driving. Didn't even get to drive the car, I don't think, in any of the preseason sessions. So, yeah, definitely tough for those two at the bottom of the table, which is where we did not expect them. Even Lando didn't have a good outing either. What was he?
P13.
P13. So anyway, but I think that one of the biggest stories is Haas in Q1.
Yes.
That was crazy. Kevin Magnussen put in, I think he was P5 at the end of Q1.
Yeah, he was definitely top 5. As we know, as the qualifying goes on, you turn the volume up a little bit on the car, on the engine. We were both watching it live, and we think that the Haas car kind of peaked maybe where we thought they were going to be in Q1. Like, we think maybe the Red Bulls are putting out 131s, the Ferrari's putting out a 132, 131, and then coming out of nowhere in Q1, Magnussen and Schumacher both getting right in there. Schumacher was, I think, 12th.
Yeah, going into Q2.
Going into Q2, and then K-Mag was P5.
Yeah.
So, just wicked times from the Haas team. Kind of same to what Aston Martin was doing last year as well. They kind of didn't put the funding into the car, and they were waiting for the regulation change for this season, which, you can't blame them. If they knew they weren't going to perform last year to the expectations that they want, let's put all of our eggs in one basket for 2022.
Yep.
New regulations. We'll get on top of it. We'll get ahead of it. And boom, out the gate. Just showing that, hey, we're gonna fight for points this year.
Yeah, they are. And, they weren't far off it 3 years ago before the Rich Energy, or was that 3 or 4? I don't even know, but we do know that they have pace, and they're a competitive car when obviously they put money into the team. And you got Kevin Magnussen driving for him now. Instead of 2 rookie drivers, you have an experienced driver.
Right.
Like you say, he raced for McLaren and Renault back in his day, right, before he went to Haas. So that's good that they had him picked up instead of Pietro Fittipaldi, who bringing in another rookie. You kind of have a vet driver, telling the team and giving them his experience and his, technique sort of to how he likes the car drive and all that. So, yeah, that Q1 was...
And he's also
crazy.
used to how Haas runs the show. It's not like he's coming to a brand new team.
Exactly.
I'm sure a lot of the faces have changed within the team, the day-to-days. But, it's still the same garage, still the same team principal with Gunther Steiner. Him getting back in there, it probably just kind of the shoe fit right back into where it was before.
Yep.
And, yeah, good point with him being the experienced driver that Haas really needs.
Yep.
Because last year was just a shit show. We all know it.
It was terrible. Mazepin.
Yeah, he hits a Mazepin right off the hop. Him and Schumacher, they had Schumacher himself had the name with him, coming, obviously, and the German funding, German backing. Mazepin, the Russian backing too, but the race craft wasn't there.
No, there was no. You got two, their highest level of driving they were in was F2.
Yeah.
So you had zero F1 experience, not even a year under anyone's belt.
Yeah, nothing. So, I mean, I think the big takeaways from Q1 was, the Haas team both getting out of Q1 for the first time. I mean, this didn't happen at all last year.
Or the year before.
I think maybe one time Schumacher got out of Q1, but it was because of like a couple of spin outs and like a red flag happened. It was a whole shit show.
Yeah.
But I think he still qualified like P15 last season. And I think the other big takeaway is Valtteri Bottas can still race.
Oh my God.
Even if he's not part of the Mercedes team.
He is a qualifying wizard.
Yeah.
Like he was P4 in Q1. And I know they're not going to give everything in P1, but even just to see his name up there in the Alfa Romeo, which was a bottom of the table team last year with 13 points?
Yep.
So he's firing it up P4 in Q1, and then he continued it through Q2. And then even Q3, he split the Mercedes to go P6 or 7?
P6, yep.
So that's huge on him. And then Magnussen behind him. So there's a Alfa Romeo and a Haas between the two Mercedes cars.
Yeah,
I don't know what happened to George Russell today.
We'll get to Q3 in a little bit, but
I'm so excited. I'm just so excited.
It's hard not to jump ahead.
Crazy.
I know. We finally get to see what the cars can do. We've been talking about it for 3 weeks now on this podcast.
Yes.
We've been reviewing stuff from last season. We've been reviewing testing. Now we're really seeing what these cars can do. And it feels good to finally talk about it in real time.
Yeah.
Like real reaction.
Exactly.
Which is basically what this podcast is going to be all about.
Mercedes. I want to talk about Mercedes too.
Yep.
Obviously in Q1, they were on the slower. I think they weren't in the top 4 in Q1. Mm-hmm. At one point, Lewis was 10th fastest with like a minute to go. He almost got knocked out of Q1. He was 10th and George was 6th. So he was kind of just right on the bottom row in Q1. And then, I don't think that they had the pace. I didn't even think they got into the 131s.
No,
they were in the low 132s.
Yeah, so out of Q1, only 4 teams qualified with the 131 time, and then both Mercedes drivers were in the 132. So Hamilton put out a 132.2, and Russell put out a 132.2 as well. Mm-hmm. A little bit faster than Hamilton in Q1 qualifying, but still, again, split up by the Haas team, split up by the Ferrari, split up by Verstappen and Red Bull,
and Bottas
as well. Yeah, so absolutely wild racing in Q1. A lot of surprises, a lot of not surprises, seeing Max up there, obviously. And we've talked a lot about Ferrari so far in the lead up of this season and how they've shown huge improvement from last year, too. So it's no big surprise to see, Sainz and Leclerc in the top 5, even in Q1.
No.
But later on down the road, we'll see exactly what they really did. Mm-hmm. Going to Q2, I think the big takeaway there was that Lando, like we said before, didn't even qualify into Q3.
Yeah.
Which last season he was, a P5, like a top 5 driver or qualifier for most of the season. So him finishing in P13 and Ricciardo only in P19.
Yeah. But if you look at
P18, that's wild.
Yeah. If you look at the table though, Lando's time was a 132, pretty much a 132 flat.
Yeah.
Lewis, and from Lewis down in Q3, he was within, not with Lewis down, with Alonso down. He could have qualified P8.
I get what you're saying. If he got into Q3, what I mean? He would have been P8.
Yeah, he was better than the from 8 to 10 drivers time on Q2.
Yeah, and he only made up 2/10.
Yeah, I mean I don't want to say the McLaren car doesn't have pace, but I didn't expect them not to make it into Q3.
No, me neither. I mean, just coming
off,
off,
they've been having brake duct problems. I don't know if they figured that out. A lot of understeer on the car, it looked like, and you could hear Ricciardo saying it on the radio.
Yeah, his car just looked heavy. I think that's what it was for me. Like going into like the slow turns, like through the fast like right-handers and left-handers, any car can kind of look visually like they're going quick, even if they're not. In the slow turns, like the hairpin going into out of turn 10, that McLaren car looked heavy. It looked heavy, Ricciardo's complaining on the radio.
The understeer.
Not much you can really do in real time to fix that.
That was in Q1 too.
Yeah.
So they didn't really have a Q2 or Q3 to fix any other problems.
No.
So they're going into the race tomorrow trying to figure it out, and hopefully,
Yeah, they'll do some work and some tinkering overnight, but just from Lando only going 2/10 faster in Q2 from his Q1 effort, not going to cut it.
Nope.
I mean, everyone ahead of him, there was obviously 15 drivers that qualified into Q2, and of those 15 drivers, 12 of them put up 131s. and Albon and Zhou Guanyu, two drivers that are with new teams, are the only ones that did not out-qualify Norris.
Yeah.
I mean, him being as successful as he was last year and the year before with the McLaren car, then finishing P4 in the Constructors doesn't allow them to have as much money coming in this year like they would if they finished P3.
Yeah.
But still, just the race pace should be there. The qualifying pace should be there in that McLaren car. We'll see what happens
tomorrow. Yeah, it's anyone's game tomorrow. Realistically,
it really is. Like, I mean, we're talking about this right now, but you could have the Mercedes cars be incredible race pace tomorrow.
Yeah.
And put up some good effort, but
the top 4 are all within 4/10.
Yeah, it was a quick top 4, man.
And the Hamilton was 0.3, 0.3 off the 4th.
Yes. Yep.
So he's not even close to competing. He's almost a second off. He was almost a second off from Leclerc.
Yeah, a lot of these guys, I'm looking at the numbers now. A lot of the guys, their Q2 times are faster than Q3s.
I don't know why. Because I remember watching, they were using used soft tires in Q2.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how their Q2 times are faster.
Well, they start off softs. Usually they'll use like whatever tire they used in the end of P1 or Q1.
They'll just start off with that. That way they're not using new ones every time.
Yeah, just like a benchmark time, and then they beat that with their new fast tire. Mm-hmm. But by the time Q3 comes around, they'll have new tires anyways there. So you would think they'd be faster.
Speaking of tires, we don't know who or what teams are going to start on what tire tomorrow at all.
Yeah, we were talking about that, during the qualifying when we were watching. The new regulation this year is that the tire choice is completely up for grabs.
Yeah, everyone was on softs.
Yeah,
every single team. It's fastest tire, but tomorrow they could start mediums, hards even. You were saying they could start on hards, go 40 laps, and then switch to softs.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy to see because each team kind of handles the tire development their own way.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we were just kind of spitballing before the podcast started, saying how you could have tire strategy looking at, let's say the Ferrari can only do 30 laps on medium tires, let's just say, and they have to go for 40 laps on hards. You look at Verstappen and the Red Bull, they could do 48 laps on mediums and then finish on softs and be quicker for the last last quarter of the race.
Yeah, which
obviously a soft tire versus a hard tire, the gap per lap is like 3 seconds almost, or it can be up there. So it's kind of going to show like who wants to start on which tire, which team thinks that they're better for the actual race.
Yep.
Whereas last season and seasons previous, whatever tire you qualify on in Q2, that exact tire is what you start on in the race.
Mm-hmm. If you're in the top 10.
If you're in the top 10, yes. Top 10. So I kind of do like that a little bit more. We'll see how it plans out this year. But I do like that because it makes qualifying not just like who can go fastest, it's also strategy behind qualifying too.
Yes, exactly. So actually it makes it more now. So who can go fastest? But yeah, we'll see tomorrow what tires the team start on. I'm gonna bet they're gonna start on mediums. I can't see them starting on softs, but it depends on tire compound. I don't know if these softs are gonna last longer than last year's. We really don't know. Q3 Ferrari was firing on all cylinders.
Yep,
just absolutely blazing. They were Charles put a 135.
Yeah, so we'll just call it off the top right now off rip. Charles Leclerc, your pole sitter for the Bahrain Grand Prix next tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
I was gonna say next week.
Next tomorrow.
Next tomorrow.
Wow. And then Verstappen, you got a 130.6, so he was 0.1 off the pace. 123 actually. It was 0.123.
Look at that. Look at Sainz.
Sainz is 0.007. Six off of Verstappen. Terrible math by me. And then Perez even was 0.3 off of Sainz.
Yeah.
So all those top 4, they're all within 0.4 seconds total, like I was saying earlier. It's going to be a battle tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then Bottas was even 0.3 off of Hamilton in an Alfa Romeo.
Yeah. So what we've seen previous is that Verstappen and Hamilton are across the board. Like if you're looking at them from like an F1 driver, like, player card, it would be like qualifying 10 out of 10, race pace 10 out of 10, racecraft 10 out of 10. Other drivers we've noticed like over the years, it's like, you're qualifying, you're a 9 out of 10. Your race is like a 6 out of 10.
Yes.
What we're seeing right now is Verstappen is clearly just a legend. A legend now, a legend to continue, because what he can do in that Red Bull,
it's incredible.
His separation between his teammates over the years has been wild. Like, look at this right now. He's 3/10 faster than his teammate Perez, but the Ferraris are right there with him.
I know.
And the big disconnect is all the way down the table. Mercedes, not even close.
Yeah, and which is what we kind of didn't expect. I really thought Mercedes was going to just fire up a couple engine modes and say, okay, yeah, that's it. We are going to be 1-2 this race, but that wasn't the case. They have that horrible porpoising problem with their car on the straights, which is going to obviously affect them into braking.
Well, just describe what that is for the listeners.
So I'm not this is just what I learned, and I'm going to give it to you in the most simple terms.
That's all we want to do
So
here.
yes, exactly. So the ground effects, what it does is it causes the cars to have more downforce. Obviously, that was the whole point of the redesign of the car. And once the car gets to a certain point of downforce, it stalls because it can only go so far. So then what it naturally does is it comes back up, but it catches that air in the same spot that it previously was, and it shoves it back down, and it stalls again. So it's just a repetitive up and down bouncing. So Mercedes looks like the team that's having the hardest time with that. We don't know. Maybe it's because there are no side pods at all car. We have no clue. But obviously every other team has kind of sort of figured it out, and they know that if they raise the front wing, yeah, you're going to get rid of porpoising, but you're going to lose tons of downforce.
Yeah, you're going to catch a lot of air coming up.
That's their problem right now, is they don't want to lose downforce by trying to get rid of porpoising, or they can try and gain downforce and figure out the porpoising problem, which they have no idea. And I don't know if it's porpoising or porpoising. I'm not sure.
I think it's porpoising.
I was going to say porpoise.
And it's also kind of fitting because for years and years since the hybrid era.
The hybrid era. Yeah.
Since that's come into play since 2015, I believe, Mercedes has been an absolute piss missile on the straights.
Yeah,
that's how they gain their speed.
Yeah,
and this year the porpoising is affecting the teams on the straights.
Yes, and the engine development is frozen as of now. Now there's no more engine development allowed to do the cars. So I think it's going to be a tough year for Mercedes. But as we've seen in the past, you're not 8 years in a row constructor champions by chance. Clearly, they have some wizards for engineers.
Yeah.
But and I think my biggest thing today is Haas. Magnussen P7, K-Mag, the boy, he's back. I love it.
He's back.
I love it.
Schumacher qualifying P12. I mean, his highest start he's ever going to have. Since being in F1, and then K-Mag P7.
I was kind of nervous with K-Mag and that hydraulic problem for his power steering.
Yeah.
I was like, if this guy doesn't make it into Q3,
well, even so, he would have been. I think. Well, was that the end of Q2?
That was the end of Q2. Yeah.
So he was already going into Q3. I don't think his pace or his time set in Q2 would have been
in Q2. No, he was
adjusted.
0.7 off Verstappen in Q2.
Yeah, but that would have been safe though.
He would have been. Yeah, he would have got through.
So I'm saying he would have started P10.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
If he did get into Q3,
he would have started P10
but he couldn't set a time for Q3 because he had a hydraulic problem.
You're automatically last.
Start P10.
Yeah, makes sense.
Which I mean, still for a Haas, you're in P10.
Yeah, P7 though.
P7.
Lucky number 7, baby. I love
getting in between Hamilton and Russell. Hamilton qualifying P5, Russell P9. We saw George, having a hard time on the straights, like we said, with the porpoising and getting into those slow corners and getting out. I think they said his going one of the first turns off the straight on his final lap of Q3, he kind of went a little bit wide, so he lost time, and his angle he approached wasn't the ideal angle to gain speed out of the corner.
Yeah, we
didn't see that on the camera. They didn't show that part, but that's what they said over the radio. But I mean, we know George is a qualifying master.
Yes,
and I mean, for him to start P9, it's going to be one of his highest starts. He has been in Q3 before with the Williams, but it'll be P9. And I mean, we'll see what he can do next
tomorrow.
Race.
We'll see what he can do next tomorrow.
See what he can do tomorrow.
Yeah.
In that Mercedes car with DRS down the straights, trying to pass cars, trying to see him overtake, because we don't get to watch that with George Russell very often. No, and same with Hamilton P5.
He's going to be often either. We don't know. I truly don't know how this race is gonna pan out. I'm so excited.
So we'll just say it one last time. Your front row tomorrow: Leclerc, Verstappen, Sainz in third, Perez in fourth, Hamilton fifth, Bottas sixth. That's gonna be a spicy little meatball down the first straight.
Yes,
Bottas
sir.
and Hamilton going one toe to toe with each other. Fernando Alonso in the P8. We didn't talk about that with the Alpine, but
Magnussen P7
qualifying P8. Oh, sorry, Magnussen P7. I'm sorry.
K-Mag boy.
I don't used to see his name up there, so I overlooked him. Magnussen P7, Alonso P8, Russell and Gasly to round out your top 10 for tomorrow's race.
Wow. Did not expect that.
No, I mean, you could have gave me 100 cracks at making this top 10 list, and I would have gotten them all wrong.
I could have said that the top 5, we're going to be in the top 5, but anything under that, did not expect that order.
And that's what we want at all.
I'm so used to seeing Russell. I'm like, oh my God, Russell's in a Williams?
I know.
It's like, oh, wow, he's a Mercedes guy.
I know.
Anyway, all right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. We're gonna record another podcast after the race tomorrow. Actually, our fantasy started today.
Yes.
So everyone go on to our league, see how your team did in qualifying, because you do get points for qualifying.
Yep.
And yeah, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Cheers.
Cheers.